Dark Souls is known for being difficult, but you go to the community and you get told the opposite. Today, I have a real challenge for you to see. See, when you beat the game, you get asked if you want to go into Journey 2, where you replay the game with powered up enemies. And you can do this every time you beat the game, up until Journey 7, where enemies are at their strongest level. So how about we start at Journey 7? First thing we do is set the new game cycle to Journey 7 to attain the highest difficulty. Once we start our journey, we test the damage on these clerics here, and the damage is pretty abysmal. If you don't know, in Dark Souls 3, the higher you go in the new game cycle, the more rings will start to appear on the map. So, we pick up the speckled stone plate ring +1, then we lead the crystal lizard off the edge for a large amount of souls, due to our new game 7 status. We free Gundyr while getting ready to take on our first boss. I'm pretty sure Gundyr won't be much of a challenge, so let's see our parrying damage. No, parry him. There you go. Oh god. See, the damage numbers are normal, but the health drained is not, which is a little off-putting, because we barely do any portion of his health. And when we do take a hit, he does all of our health. Upon this realization, the fight suddenly becomes high pressure, and we cease to do very well in it. We need a change of pace. And that change of pace is a new character. We go for the warrior class instead, and give Gundyr another try. Our damage isn't better, but I'm more comfortable with this moveset, and comfort does wonders for the tutorial boss, because we get to Phase 2 very quickly. Also, if you don't know, Phase 2 is trivial. You can just circle around Gundyr, and the only thing you have to dodge is his slam attack, which is just a bit of timing, and that leads to an easy win. We go ahead and do the tree jump for a free Estus, some extra souls along our journey, and nab the Swordmaster's souls before leveling up. We prioritize Vigor, and head to High Wall. Most of you watching
Have no idea what's about to happen next.
What? What's happening? Who was that? Was that who I think it was? Now into our first area of the game, we see if it's worth it to take out the enemies here. And the answer we come to is no. But sometimes, enemies have to be taken out anyway. Like this guy, who will trigger many more enemies if he isn't taken out fast. And this leads us to both be quick, but thought out and methodical. After lighting our first bonfire, and failing to grab both goodies in this room, we free Grey Rat for later, and head to Vort. So, Vort isn't going to be a challenge, right? Well, with that damage, I don't know. He takes us down on our first try, but that was just the survey. Back again, we can see that while damage is absolutely pathetic, Vort isn't the quickest dog in the book, and the damage can build up to about what one swing would do in New Game. When we do get hit, we have to spend 3 Estus to heal back up. Better than not healing at all, I guess. When our friend goes into Phase 2, the pace simultaneously picks up and slows. It picks up in the speed of Vort, but it slows us with only being able to get a couple hits in if we're lucky. We're not prepared for this, and take a hit to a pivot to end this attempt. We're instantly back for more though, because personally, I can't let Vort be my roadblock. We decide to use the pine resin we picked up in High Wall here, just to get this early boss over with. My thought is, why save it if you won't get another boss to use it on? And after a solid 2 minutes of hammering away at Vort, we take him down. But for this run, it feels like a bad omen. We go ahead and pick up the banner from Emma, and use it to progress further into the game. After barely taking out these dogs, we run over to Yol and nab him. We gather everything important in this area, including Loretta's Bone for Grey Rat, an Estus Shard, and a Covenant for ourselves. We light the next bonfire here, and start the level farm. Once we're thoroughly hollowed out, we open the shortcut to the Great Wood, and unlock the closest bonfire, Before actually taking on our next boss, though, we have a demon to kill. Our friend here actually does more damage than us. Our goal here is just to keep the damage away from him, while he does most of the work. And while we finish the demon off, I'm off to grab my armor. We go ahead and grab it, and decide it's time for our next boss. I'm honestly concerned, because somehow the Greatwood manages to make any challenge run more difficult. And when 120 damage barely shows up on the health bar, that reinforces that fact. Another thing is that this AoE, that usually does very minor damage, is a pain to deal with. We basically have to wait it out every time it comes up, or we risk dying. Despite all this, we utilize pure luck to make it to phase 2 on our first try. But with another AoE, that's a death sentence, even if I did run into it like an idiot. We decide it's time to grab our helmet too. So we push Leonhardt off the edge and grab my helmet. The next time we come back, come on. No matter how hard we try, we just can't seem to get that far into the fight. So we move on for now. He is optional after all, but we'll be back. We grab another Estus shard here, and run through this area to the Crystal Sage. And since this isn't a challenge run with 5 seconds of startup per attack, we get to test our damage. And while it seems doable, you gotta keep in mind the circumstances of this fight. The relative damage per cycle in Phase 1 tells the story of Phase 2. Every time a cycle of Phase 2 starts, we have to scramble and find the real Sage, and we're bound to get peppered with attacks from the clones at this point. But since this is New Game 7, pepper hurts, man. And since we have to rush to the main boss, we can get sloppy, and the Sage can destroy us when we're sloppy. There's one thing we need right now, a good weapon. Grey Rat is on a scavenge right now, and won't be back with my weapon of choice until I kill a boss. And that feels like a stretch right now. We decide to move forward anyway, and while exploring near the Stray Demon, we find the Great Axe. I don't use this weapon, but I do need high single hit damage, and this looks like a good choice. And so, we head back to Firelink, kill Hawkwood for his heavy gem, since we can't handle the Greatwood, infuse our Great Axe, and upgrade it to +3. Now, we do about 370 damage per hit, which has to be worth something, right? Well, let's see. And we're on the board for yellow damage for the first time in this run. And if we could make it to phase 2 without yellow damage, we definitely can with yellow damage. And without random hollows bothering us, and with weaker targets, we're able to take out the Greatwood with some well-placed hits. Then, we come up to the other boss we failed to kill. Getting hits in, the damage is immediately more tolerable. If we're lucky, we can get 2 fully charged heavy attacks in every cycle, which does quite a bit of damage. And once phase 2 hits us, the running attack of the Great Axe allows us to dodge a lot of attacks that would come our way, while also dealing with a clone or 2. And you know, the best strategy sometimes is just to pop off. You're done. We continue to fight through areas of the game, grabbing things from an Estus shard to an Undead Bone shard. In the Cathedral, we take out the 2 giants here, down below, because even in the sludge, we can get attacks off and dodge theirs. Then, grab their large Titanite, and get our axe upgraded to +4 earlier than usual. And now that we've upgraded, we're to the Deacons. The good thing about the Deacons is that phase 1 damage is fixed, because when a Deacon dies, it does the same damage, always. And that makes phase 1 comparatively easy to the rest of this challenge. In phase 2, the Archdeacons go down to prevent a heal, and we kite the Deacons away from the main one, to get some free hits in. Then, once the Deacon is weak enough, we can rush in for the kill. we go ahead and finish fair and keep up, and we make it to the Abyss Watchers. The Abyss Watchers, while quick, are easy to hit if you know them well. And I mean, I'm a challenge runner, of course I know them well. When the second Watcher comes in, we want to see if we can feasibly kill him, and it's fair to say that we can. Well, we did. Then, while the main one is distracted, we take our chance to backstab him, and with another well-placed hit, we have him on the back foot. But he's obviously got another trick up his sleeve, it being a Dark Souls boss and all. The trick took us by surprise. And needless to say, we weren't ready for it. Next time, we find a good opening for our backstab to give us a head start in the fight. And after more of the same, we're back to phase 2. This time, instead of trying to parry a boss, I typically don't parry. I go for a more passive approach, and it saves us from dying, barely. We get a failed backstab, and some real damage. It's a lot of running around, waiting for an attack with a lot of end lag. But the fight isn't too hard. And soon enough, we're victorious over the Abyss Watchers. We run through the catacombs next, killing enemies important to progression before they can run away. The bridge goes down, and we take on Wolnir. The rings don't seem to go down any slower, so this fight is just as normal. Bye, High Lord Wolnir. We run down to the Smoldering Lake, do some big damage to this demon, then grab the Titanite and goodies here, before taking on the old Demon King. I want to ask you a question before we continue. Do you think of the old Demon King when you think hard boss? I don't either. But today, I might have to. Because with attacks like this, the boss that we're facing isn't what most call easy. You know, maybe hard is an understatement. This fight isn't about dodging timings. It's just anti-greed. If I went for a second heavy attack, the Fire Spew would likely take me out. And that means the fight is just slow, especially in phase 2 with the meteors. Even the explosion is annoying. You just run away, then run back to finish him off. Maybe annoying fits this boss better. We finally head up to Irithyll and head to this post to await the beast that's about to attack us. With 2 good swings, we stun him, ending him and his torment before it can begin. Irithyll itself is asking to be ran through. So we grab a bonfire for later, and even run through the worst stairway in the game, no issue. For Pontiff here, a parashield is all he takes, especially in phase 1. And phase 2 can still be parried, which trivializes the entire fight, leading to our quick victory. We dodged some arrows on the way up to Anarlundo, and we're here at Aldrich. Already? Yeah, I guess Anarlundo is kind of a nothing area. We actually open the fight with getting slammed, unfortunately, but I'm not deterred. We get to swing at Aldrich as he teleports, and a sizable chunk of health will do for this fight, especially if that's the damage number, not swinging at the head. Aldrich is pretty slow in the recovery, letting us get in some dirty charge attacks for massive damage, and a ticket to phase 2. This phase has the bane of my existence in it, but we still dodge it, and can land some good hits. We continue this pattern, staying in the middle of the arena when he moves, to quickly catch him, and it leads to the end of the fight. Now for the dungeon, which we run through, only stopping to kill a mimic. And for Yorm, in the spirit of the run, let's not use the Storm Ruler. Our reach with this weapon makes it hard to hit Yorm's head, but when we do, that's more damage than the legs, and it leads to a stagger, which is a lot more damage than the legs, especially during the riposte. And, well, this fight is really boring without the Storm Ruler, because his moveset is centered around disruption, not difficulty. The intended challenge being to charge up the Storm Ruler. So, we take him down after about 30 minutes. And when we get summoned back to Highwall, you bet your ass I'm out of there. I got souls, baby. we go ahead and level up, although the levels aren't very useful anymore. And we're back, ready to fight Dancer. I have a pretty useful comparison to make for this fight. If you've ever fought Dancer before killing Vort, this fight feels pretty identical to that. So we take a lot of damage, and deal little, but it's a very possible fight. And a lot of it is thanks to Dancer's unusual actions. How she moves, how she just stands there sometimes. And when phase 2 comes along, and she spins, go ahead and start counting. Once she's going for her 7th spin, roll in. There's a free hit for you. And with niche knowledge like that, we kill Dancer first try. And as we progress... Oh my god, he's losing a lot of blood. Oh no, what do I do? Instead of going to the Consume King's Garden like usual, we head into Lothric Castle. And grab the Titanite chunks here, then upgrade to +9. And now at a pretty good power level, we take on Osiris. Osiris is a mix of a lot of the bosses we've seen so far. He starts off slow, but his tail leads to that being a pro for us. But then, once phase 2 hits, he speeds up to an almost absurd degree, making hitting him almost impossible, and getting punished for any action we want to take. It's alright though, because even when we can't hit him, we can still dodge him. And well, he's not invincible. We pick up an important emote right before we have a do-over. Champion Gundyr is a boss that is made trivial by parrying, which is the story of most parryable bosses in these games. Even once phase 2 hits, it's the same story he always is, and will be. No matter the attack, Gundyr can't handle a shield. And after we pick up our infinite use homeward bone, we head to the demon we forgot. Oh no, it's not hard or anything, it's just the stray demon. But then, we head to the Forgotten area. We battle through the beginning, and run through the battle, to plunge the Ancient Wyvern. Then, we can move to the real fight. Wait, no, this is just more running. Like, a lot more running. Well, after all that running, and a quick hurricane, we're to the real fight. The King of the Storm is simple enough. You can often just run out of the range of its attacks, and deal some good damage if you're used to the shit camera. We can get some more damage during the breath attack, and stagger the boss, ending phase 1. Phase 2 is going to be a different beast though. And while damage on my end is starting to balance out, I can't say the same for the boss we're facing. But the Nameless King spends a lot of time recovering, which is a big flaw as we've seen with Aldrich. And no matter how many times the king flies at us, we're ready to take him out. With that over with, we grab a slab, get our weapon to +10, and fight the knockoff version of the boss we just killed. The Dragon Slayer armor isn't easier, just different. We can often duck under his hitboxes with a well-timed heavy attack, and we're prone to stagger him, but he's also a lot more aggressive, with attacks we're not ready for, and assists from the Pilgrim Butterflies in phase 2. We're not home free. Well, now we are. In the Grand Archives, we dunk our head in wax, and run through the largely unremarkable area, up to our final Lord of Cinder. Will this one be a challenge? Well, we at least have to give it a shot, right? Of course we do. So, the Twin Princes are up there in difficulty. They're fast, and I'm less so. By the time he swings 3 attacks at me, I'm barely able to recover from 1. But also, phase 1 is the easy part, and phase 2 is when it really starts. So when we get there, we start to have to deal with all the things it brings. These particles are basically a death sentence, so we can't attack. The bright side is that we can often attack both bosses, shortening the fight to an amazing degree. But we have to hit the boss for that, and that's not an easy task. Whenever Lorien goes down, Lothric takes a big hit. The fight isn't long, just execution heavy, and soon enough, we execute. After that, it's time to get started on our final 7 bosses, starting with the first DLC. And these DLCs don't have much substance other than the bosses, so it's really about the bosses here. The first one is under the bridge. When we find him, these dogs are not happy, and they kinda rough us up. Like, kinda a lot. But they all die eventually. And that just leaves us the Grave Tender to spam down. Since this is an NPC fight, there's not that much strategy. Well, as the real boss comes in, the NPC dies, and we're left with a boring one-on-one. This wolf is if Osiris was bad. I feel like it's pretty much the same moveset, just less inspired. And when we finish it off with a stagger, Venerapost, nobody could care less. And as we do way too many shenanigans to get to our next boss, I prepare. Frida, I hardly know her. There's one positive I will attribute to Sister Frida. She's easier with heavier weapons. See her miss an attack, swing. Then, you can get a little bit of a stun lock going. And 2000 damage per punish is how you end Phase 1 fast. Phase 2 shouldn't be a surprise strategy-wise. Hit Ariandel, prevent a heal, and stay mobile to prevent frost. With a strategy like that, you'll basically remove Phase 2 from the fight. But when Frida pulls out a second scythe, oh boy does she get boring. No matter your weapon, you have to spend a majority of this fight running, because Frida acts somewhat like an NPC, but with special protections that make her insanely OP, on top of insane attacks that will demolish your health bar. And when you can attack, be grateful for what you get, I guess. But hey, rinse and repeat like always, and she goes down like a charm. It just takes a lot of time. And now that Frida so generally lets us in the DLC, we proceed. In the Dreg Heap, we pick up the Ring of Steel Protection +3, and do a quick skip to make it to the Twin Demons, or the Demon Prince, whatever you want to call them. We do a solid 600 damage to... And a solid number is refreshing, especially when the boss is resistant to everything that isn't physical, and subsequently is a challenge on most of your runs. But on this run, we take down the demon in pain, then the one from below, and no issue, take down the Demon Prince, first try. We have some mild deja vu, and run through yet another pointless area. And this one lasts so long. Whatever, we're at the Bridge Midir now. This time, Midir doesn't even get to do his fancy tantrum before getting knocked off. Before Midir, we grab the one item of worth here, the Chloranthy Ring +3. Then, we drop down to him and miss our opener. We hit our second opener, and 1,000 being that little is scary. Midir is nothing I can't handle at this stage of my life. Well, physically. I don't know about mentally. Even the intimidating laser is just a matter of dodging in rhythm, if you're stationary. And when Midir staggers, the fight is over. Say bye! After him, Half-Baked, was just around the corner. I have a confession to make. I feel bad about that fake montage earlier. So, for your sake, and mine, here's a real one. After placing all the Lords of Cinder on their thrones, we move to our final area. And the Soul of Cinder is one hell of a letdown for a final challenge. He's too weak. And when he gets put into Phase 2, not even his imitation of the Lord of Sunlight will save him. But that's okay, because he dies, and we leak the flame.